Jim, from Derek and from me, good night.
Need men on the ground, aren't they? Well, it's management they get rid of first.
It's a dirty job, and it's getting dirtier.
You went off, not me.
You wanted me back. You asked me back.
You didn't have to come. What about jobs?
There's just so much fat they can trim off.
Us or them?
Let's go to bed.
Now?
I am going to clean up this town. I've just broken the law to ensure that we have the best chance possible.
Come on, Ken. Lost your appetite?
Love and Tenders. Common as Muck, Wednesday, 9:30, BBC1.
It's autumn, and the birds have image problems.
No, I haven't.
Dear Dorian, the trollop green. Not from a stranger, then.
And Sharon's not helping.
Look how I've captured the way your hair goes all lanky when you're sweating like a pig.
But having a royal neighbour could boost Chegwin morale.
I could ask her to become a patron of my charity.
What charity?
Well, I don't know. I'll start one.
Slag aid?
A new season of tart comments in Birds of a Feather, tomorrow, 7:30, BBC1.
Bon Voyage and Aventure Malgache are two propaganda films by Alfred Hitchcock. Lost and Found are being shown on BBC2 in 5 minutes. We've another film premiere on BBC1 in 40 minutes when a martial arts expert unleashes his powers in a quest for vengeance, The Perfect Weapon. First, BBC1 becomes a meeting place for new stars of entertainment and sport. A new series for Saturday nights with Danny Baker.
Thank you very much indeed. Hey, good evening. Good evening. He's wearing a tie. Hey. Thanks for joining us here late on Saturday night to blow the lid right off your television set, straining every nerve to make the most entertaining 45 minutes of your lives. For instance, tonight helping us we have Paul Merton's going to be with us in the studio. Paul Merton. We've got a genuine son of the jungle in Mr. Mark O'Shea. We will be asking our studio audience here to tell us about their scars and woe and indeed ho. Do you know who's going to be performing over there in a matter of minutes? We've got Bryan Ferry in the studio this evening. All of that coming in this one talked package, starting with our first guest, a man who, in an era when TV presenters come and go like John Wayne Bobbitt's penis, is the nearest thing entertainment has to a fixture and fitting. Pray silence for the king himself.
Good morning, Michaela Strachan. You're on the big breakfast. Hey, I can't pull back the covers because I've got a funny feeling. Are you decent? Hey, where are Hey? Oh, no! A first. This could be a real first for us on the big breakfast.
If all good times are all gone, I'm now bound for moving on.
Hello, my name's Cheggers, and a great big warm welcome to Cheggers Plays.
Let's make those squidges taste a little bit good. Linda, come out with me on Saturday and I'll give you the word. We'll spend the evening on the yacht sipping Pepsi from champagne glasses under the stars.
Think about it.
I'll give you my phone number and you can call me when you've decided.
Your office number or your home number?
Neither. It's a fish and chip shop over the road, but they'll take a message. Then he'll get a cool fizz-in Pepsi.
Well, personally, I think his best work was in those marathon ads. But nevertheless, let us hoot and holler. It's Keith Chegwin.
That's a good bit of research.
First thing, did you get off with Lisa there?
No, yeah, after the commercial, I got a phone number, you know. Yeah, and I phoned her constantly for about 3 weeks. And,
You were really?
Yeah, really, but no luck.
So what's the deal with the waking the people up stuff? Something like Michaela there. Does
Oh.
the pixie get into you and you think, hey, and back come the covers?
I was really tempted to, I'll tell you.
Yeah?
I'll tell you the weird thing is that her boyfriend was in on the gag, right? And he opened the door to me, but he opened the door to me with nothing on. To this day, I can't work that one out. He knew he was coming, and he's standing there, blah blah, naked behind. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was tempted.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I've been tempted on a few occasions.
Because
We've had some corkers.
I mean, again, because I don't know if you know, but I do these ads where I go into people's houses. and when you go in there, obviously we're recorded, so you say, oh wow, did you see that on the floor? Did you see that on the floor? You're live.
Oh yeah.
So what happens? What do you see?
Well, that's it. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. I mean, there was one classic one only happened a few months ago where I went on this oil rig and we woke the sort of crew up live and I ran into this sort of like little cabin. And as I ran in, this guy's bum is hanging out the bed. Yeah. But next to the bed was a pile of dirty books that high and a box of tissues. I don't know what he was doing the night before, but...
yeah. So what do you...
Oh, yeah. Well, you just have to... I mean, you just have to carry on. I mean, there's a classic one. I went to Glasgow the other week, and I ran down the street, and I knocked on this front door, and this guy's bedroom window opened, you know, and I said, hello, Keith Chegwin, big breakfast. And this Scots voice went, fuck off. And I honestly had to judge. Honestly, I had to judge.
No, it couldn't have been. It must have been muffled.
No, it did. I mean, because I have a stick mic, and I had to judge whether the public at home could hear it or not. And I just went, that's fine. Got in from a late night there.
Yeah, and to just carry on with it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's live TV.
Well,
it does happen.
When I was doing a show in London years ago, we went at someone's house, set all the lamps up, and one of them blew, and as you know, when a lamp, it sends burning glass everywhere.
Yeah.
We set fire to the front room. and being television, and you have to be responsible, we just said, we're not going to do it in here, and we closed the door, and we just got out. Have you wrecked joints? Have you done anything like that?
Yeah, there was an occasion where I ran down the street and sort of like grassy area, and I'm not joking, I picked up a huge lump of dog
turd.
Yeah, poo on my foot.
Yeah.
And it was that big, and it was either side. A man who's just said that.
You used the W and the F, and now we've gone to poo, Keith.
No.
It's a little late. Yeah, so
Career's gone now.
You've got it on your...
Oh, yeah, and I knocked on this front door, and I ran into this house, and she had, like, you know, the highest shag pile you've ever seen, and I ran up the stairs and I ran into the living room. Like, it was absolutely everywhere. But the people are so good because you just turn around. I said, I'm so sorry about that. She said, oh, don't worry, we'll clean it up, we'll sort it out. You're right, few in it, checkers.
And actually, they didn't mind.
No, people are great. The general public are brilliant.
You disappeared, okay? There's no getting away from it. You are experiencing a reinvention.
Yeah.
And as I say, when I said your name here, everyone said, oh, Keith's been around forever. But there was a period when you weren't, right?
Yeah, there was a period for about... Oh, gosh, probably about 5 or 6 years that I sort of...
Well, never away, but 5 or 6
No, I was, because what happened is that I continued doing things like, you know, Celebrity Squares and Give Us a Clue, and I stayed on TV for quite some time, but I never actually did any real work. You know, I didn't have a series or, I don't know, I wasn't asked to do much because, I mean, basically, the truth is that I was an alcoholic. I was drinking an awful lot.
And I mean, I know about this, and I want to come to this. But that literally got around and you weren't hired because of it?
No, it never did get around, you see, because, like...
I never knew until recent publicity.
No, I was a very deceptive... I mean, like, all alcoholics are very deceptive. I mean, what would happen is that if a job came in TV-wise or something, I'd sort of, like, sober up the day before, and then whilst doing the job, I'd continue to sort of, like, keep myself topped up, not with booze, because, like, television producers and people would smell it, but I sort of topped myself up with things like... Night Nurse, Listerine, Plaques, cough mixture. Well, no, basically...
No, I don't, of course, be facetious about saying that's obviously destroying you. But night nurse?
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. But yeah, the reason being is because what happens is that with drinking, if you take drink away from someone who's an alcoholic, they think they're ill because they haven't got their source.
Yeah.
So and the other problem with alcoholics is when they stop drinking, they get like withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah, yeah.
So to sort of like keep those withdrawal symptoms on an even keel, so you don't shake, sweat, vomit, have diarrhea, and the whole body craving for another drink. What I did is that I sort of kept myself ticky right the way throughout a filming day or doing a television programme by drinking Listerine, night nurse, to keep the sort of like, you know, feeling subdued.
How did you arrive at that? It seems extreme. I mean, what was this, some kind of manual for, like, losers that you can go through?
I just sort of, I mean, you know, a lot of people turn around and say things like, it's hereditary, it's something to do with your background, your childhood or what have you. But for me, with drinking, it was just I got on a hamster wheel and couldn't get off. I mean, I went to great lengths to sort of drink. You know, it got to the extent where I wasn't worried about sort of like losing my home, my family, my work or anything. I was drinking 2 bottles a day. But what I do is of whiskey a day. You know, I mean, people don't...
Was this like when you were perky old Keith on the telly?
Yeah. But you see, I mean, what people don't realise is that by the end of it all, I was sort of like lying in a bed for days and months on end. I'd lying in wee and my own vomit. And I'd sort of like, the only thing I would do is sort of raise my head out of bed to sort of like glug some more drink. I mean, I'd wake up in the morning, get into the shower and have a tumbler that big, and I'd just drink myself to blackout and oblivion all the time.
Now you are over it. Do you actually miss drinking?
No. I've learned that, you know, what a drink could do to me. I mean, drink is everywhere. That's the big problem. You know, it's in supermarkets, in people's homes, it's... You know,
so what do you
it's
do?
in your hotel room when you get there, or the minibar.
I know friends. I know friends who have done, you know, done what you've done, and you, in spite of yourself, you still make jokes about go on, have one.
I do, though. You see, I mean, when I go out with people, you know, I'm not one of those sort of downers. I'm not one of those people who say, oh, you know, I'm not one of those anti-smoking people or those anti-drinking people who have a go at you. Yeah. You know, I just let everybody be themselves.
Now, surprise me. They say you're writing a book. Yeah. What are you going to call it?
It was going to be called OK Pissheads, Let's Get Serious. They didn't like that, I don't know why. Then it was called Cheggers Can't Be Boozers. And then it's called, now it's going to be called Shaking But Not Stirred. But it's not like a self-help book, it's anecdotal, semi-autobiographical.
Well,
it's just a bit of fun.
I hope you haven't preempted any of it tonight, Kate.
No.
And coming back to something you were touching on earlier, we should get some of these deadbeats who do have their own shows out and give you some work, mate, in the evening so you can be back fully reclaimed on the throne where he belongs. That's Keith Chegwin.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Well, you see, they love you, man.
They're nice, yeah.
You know, it's been a long time since I rock and rolled, but give me plenty of room tonight, because back among us, a man whose style, vision and music rescued us from Woodstock thinking the first time around. Look out, he's back to do it all over again. Who could ask for more than Mr. Bryan? Ferry, really?
I was dreaming of the past, and my heart beating fast. I began to lose control. I began to lose control. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry that I made you cry. I didn't want to hurt you. I'm just a jealous guy. I was feeling insecure. You might not love me anymore. I was shivering inside. I was shivering inside. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry just a jealous guy. I was trying to catch your eye. I thought that you was trying to hide. I was swallowing my pain. I was swallowing my pain. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry that I made you cry. I didn't want to hurt you. I'm just a jealous guy.
Stop! Cut it out, you slavering dogs. Well, look, do you see this right just here? I don't know if you can see that. You see, I have never had stitches in my life until earlier this year. That is a little scar up there. And I was telling people about it, and everyone always goes, and I think you will too. This is what happened. I hit my head on the fireplace at home, and it cut it open, and as I say, I've never had stitches. Went to the hospital, and they put 3 little stitches in there. And I thought, and didn't you, that stitches dissolved. Didn't you, when you heard that somewhere? But they don't. You have to go back and have them taken out, but nobody told me this. So like 7 months on, me and me 3 stitches, they're still there, they're kind of loose now, and it's kind of sore, and I'm calling them like after the bachelor's deck, Con, and the other one, I can't remember his name. So there they are, the 3 stitches in the forehead, and I'm used to them, but I must get them taken out. I go to my biannual haircut at my barber's, and I sit down in the chair, and I forget to tell him that there's a wound up here. He gets out the old steel comb. How you doing, Dan? Yeah. I looked up, and there from my forehead hung a steel comb and a fresh river of blood. Exactly. So that's my horror story. And with that in mind, let us turn to our Time the Place style audience here and play Tell Us About Your Scar. Do we have a Bryan Goodwill? A Bryan Goodwill. Where are you, Bryan? Just on the aisle there, rather conveniently. Bryan, first tell us about your scar. What happened?
I was 11 years old and I didn't fancy going to school, and Dad was taking me to school in the car, dual carriageway, 60 miles an hour. I thought, here it comes, fortnight off, just dived out the car, 60 miles an hour.
You jumped out of a car at 60 miles an hour?
It was Latin and French and maths and everything.
So like I'm looking at a 5'10" scar here, and is that what it is? Well then, Bryan, show us your scar. Where is it?
Just there.
It's his scar. That's Bryan Goodwill's scar, everybody. He leapt out of a car at 60 miles an hour to get off school. All right, now, we'll turn to the audience. If you will now press the buttons in the arm of your chairs, and we'll see how that story measures up as a percentage of my pain. Can we see it? 53% of this kind of pain. Turning to our next one, we're playing Tell Us About Your Scar. Do we have a Mick Poynton? Mick, where are you? Briefly, tell us about your scar. What happened?
18 months old.
Wow.
Out for the day with Auntie at Sheringham on holiday.
Yeah, get on with it, Mick.
OK. And went to the ladies' loo with Auntie. Lady pushed past, too tight to spend a penny to spend a penny.
Yeah.
Slammed the door behind her. My finger was in the door.
It's a finger in... OK, the ingredients here.
Hanging on.
Women's toilets, boy's finger, 18 months old and an auntie. Show us that. Hold it up. Let's see it. Could we now see his pain as reflected as a memory of my own horror? It is 21%, you see? One thing, Mick, just before we move on, and please, no inference, no reflection on this. Did it affect your later sexuality in life, the women's toilets thing? Did it?
What sexuality?
Thank you very much indeed, Mick. OK, last one. Danny Marr. Where are you, Danny Marr? Oh, Danny Marr, right up there. Can we get across to him? Danny, we'll just come across, and you will be playing Tell Us About Your Scar. What have you got, Danny?
I was the comparing at a charity do about 10 years ago down in the Old Kent Road, and I made a little remark about some fella wearing a shell suit.
And the rest writes itself, doesn't it, really?
Well, what happened was this fella was about 6'4", skinhead, and he came up and he said, I don't like them remarks, and he tried to bite my nipple off.
You tried to bite your nipple off? Can you show us now? Danny, can you show us the scar?
Up there.
Can we see it? I'm thinking this is a good one. Can we now see his percentage reflected as a result of my pain? What would it be? It's 100% scoring! What you heard in playing Tell Us About Your Scar were just a few of the hazardous tales this naked city has to offer. But if you really want danger, if you really want to talk about bruises as big as dinner plates and scars the size of tow ropes, you've got to go into the jungle. Our next guest is the jungle. An actual maverick, a real-life Crocodile Dundee. Please say hello to Mark O'Shea. Gave you a build-up there which was, you know, impressive, but I think people thinking, how's this guy a real-life Crocodile Dundee?
Well, I've got a beard, and Paul Hogan hasn't, for a start.
There is that, but you, in a few words, tell us what you do.
Well, I work on reptiles in the tropics. I catch snakes for venom research, and I do surveys in jungles for reserves, catching crocodiles, lizards.
Is it fair to say, then, you catch real dangerous animals?
Yes, I think it's fair to say. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous, some of them.
I mentioned Crocodile Dundee, and I think I detect a small, under that beard, a small curl of the lip, a little sneer. How do you feel about the image of Indiana Jones?
Well, I get labelled Crocodile Dundee or Indiana Jones quite a lot by the media, but I was in jungles and catching crocs before either of those films was dreamed up.
But in films like Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff, are they real snakes?
Not all of them. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, a lot of the snakes in the sequence were actually legless lizards from Yugoslavia. The whole writhing mass...
It's an interesting distinction there, between a snake and a legless lizard.
Well,
what do you mean?
Well, not all lizards have got 4 legs to run around on.
Therefore, they're a snake. Oh,
I'll show you a
run
legless
for your
lizard.
lives. It's a legless lizard.
What we have here is a genuine legless lizard, the exact same species that they used in Raiders of the Lost Ark from Yugoslavia.
That's a snake, Mark.
That's a lizard.
It's a snake,
It's
Mark.
got ears, it's got eyelids, it's got all the characteristics of a lizard, except leglessness.
Mark, who?
And if you want to make leglessness a snake characteristic,
No,
there are
I'm
a lot
not
of them
saying
on
that,
Friday
but look,
night.
I walk into my bathroom, I remove something, and underneath is that I don't go, Oh, no, it's got eyelids, it's got a... No problem with it. That's a snake,
If you're going to
that's a
find
snake.
these in your bathroom, give me a phone number. I'll come round and take it away for you.
But at a pinch, another snake with a few beers inside it would look at that and think, yeah, OK, let's go.
Well, if it had got a few beers inside it, it'd be twice legless, wouldn't it?
There it is. Well, Mark O'Shea all of a sudden. Yeah, I'll buy that, yeah. We've dealt with snakes, and as you've shown us, they're entirely different from legless lizards. I feel such a fool.
Well,
OK, so there's your legless lizard, there's your snake.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned crocodiles. Well, you've brought a crocodile with us, haven't you?
Yes.
It's a phrase I didn't think I'd find myself saying.
Well,
you brought a crocodile with you.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
You ever seen a show called Pets Win Prizes?
I have,
I'm used to all
yes.
this. Yeah, I'm used to all this.
Well, this guy wants to go on that.
Oh, wow.
Because this fellow, he's very fond of some of the pets on Pets Win Prizes.
Look, I mean, is that normal? Should it be doing that with its mouth?
Yes, yes, he's curious about you.
How big will that get?
8 foot maximum.
Oh, well, there's no problem.
Yeah, but he's got a big brother that goes to...
Whoa!
Oh, he likes you.
Why did he do that?
He says, don't doubt him.
Oh,
He says, if he tells you 8 feet, 8 feet it is.
Why would you do that to me? Why? I remember Dave Allen doing this years ago, yeah. Why would you do... Is that an intelligent thing? Is it looking at you?
No,
It's
but
dumb,
he's wondering where his next meal's coming from.
Is that it?
Yeah, no, he's just in...
Could that take my finger off?
No, he wouldn't, but I think we'd be looking for the first aid kit. You'd be able to beat everybody in the audience for Show Us Your Star.
All right, so I'm going to do this just because I feel nuts tonight. But there it is. I'm going to do this. How would you go about catching one of these?
You can catch them up to bigger than this, but not much bigger by going into the water. It's foolhardy to go after really big ones.
Right.
If you're actually in the same medium as them.
How can you tell if it's a really big one or it's this one?
The distance between the eyes. If it's like a foot between the eyes, I think you can safely say that's not a little crocodile. See, he's about an inch between the eyes, and you think, yes, you could tackle him, and when you get up close and he hasn't seen you because he can't see past the light, you just grab him round the back of the head and with the other hand to the hips.
Like you got there?
Yeah, and then
but
you walk back.
supposing it's two enormous one-eyed crocodiles standing next to each other?
Well, you go down in history as making a big mistake.
Let me try. I don't know why I'm doing this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think if you just put him back for a second because it's I've done what I promised I'd do. All right, so there goes the crocodile. Oh, he's got a little pool in there and everything, some friends, good. Last question for you. Just lastly, this incredible job you do all over the world catching crocodiles, alligators and snakes. I'm fascinated by the rather mundane title, if you forgive me, which you actually rejoice in. You are?
Curator of Reptiles at West Midlands Safari Park.
Too small a phrase, my friend. You are the Crocodile Dundee. I'm saying it's Mark O'Shea. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mark. Pretty tough gig, eh? Pretty tough gig. But you know, show business isn't all easy rides, makeup and drinking white wine with Derek Nimmo. It can get pretty rough in here too. For instance, my next guest once had to wait 20 minutes for his courtesy card to arrive. But he's over it, and he can be seen hosting a tribute to the London Palladium starting tomorrow night. Oh, our cup overflows, because here, now, is Paul Merton. Yeah, about there a bit. So, reading my press cuttings, there's this bomb in your garden, was there?
Yeah, about a week ago. It wasn't really a bomb, it was a sort of hand grenade. It wasn't a sort of hand grenade, it was a hand grenade. And we didn't really bother with it much, and we phoned the police up, and it turned out to be live.
You unearthed this thing? It was like...
Well, we got some people working in the garden. They sort of dug up, and they were sort of throwing it to the dog and stuff. And they just sort of said, well, you know, you've got a hand grenade in your garden, and we spent a couple of days looking at it and wondering what to do, and then we looked up the Yellow Pages, the hand grenade department, and they came around and dealt with it.
Where's the toughest place? Because I've seen this book that's out recently called Har Bloody Heart, and comics in it talking about tough place, weird gigs.
Yeah.
Even if it's not your own, what would you say is the weirdest?
Probably the hardest one. I mean, I was doing a gig in Brixton a few years ago, And there was these two guys sitting in the audience who were just completely out of it. I mean, they weren't sort of drunk or anything. They were more than drunk. They were orbiting Neptune, you know. they were really, you know, so they'd shout things out.
Oh,
and
heckling, right.
Yeah, heckling and stuff. Yeah. And you try and put them down. The other act's trying to put them down. But it didn't make any difference, because they weren't really there. They were somewhere else, you know.
Yeah.
So you say something like, I remember when I had my first pint of lager, and that they're looking at the Sirens of Titan as they're going through. You know, it doesn't, you're not going to put them down because they're not sharing the same universe. And so in the end, I was the last one on, and every actor suffered with this. And so I just sort of, they started off, and I said, oh, I'm a bit long in the tooth for all this, really. So I got the audience, I moved the audience out of the pub, and I did the act out in the car park.
You did something there, by the way, when you said the Sirens of... what did you say?
Titan, yeah.
Sirens of Titan there. And of course that, rightly or wrongly, has become your trademark. Pretty much flights of fancy. Let's take the story over here. Is that something that's happened through Have I Got News? Or you can't have done that stuff with early audiences. They wouldn't have known where you were going, or did you?
Oh, yeah, I did, yeah. You know, you sort of like occasionally, you know, because when you write something, you think, oh, this is very funny, and sometimes the audience laughs, and sometimes they just look at you. And I had this stuff about Sooty. I had this stuff about Sooty, you know, before he became like a children's entertainer, he was a Shakespearean actor and he went to RADA. And I'd started talking about this, how he was, you know, and he gave it up and sweep season under the money and he's signing on in Brixton, you know, and all this stuff. And the audience would just look at me saying, like, but he's a glove puppet. And other comics, unless I was part of some huge practical joke, other comics would say, oh, I love that stuff, and everybody would laugh about it. And I did it about 25 times. And it never worked.
You willfully put yourself sometimes in situations where your humour, not to make it too narrow, it will be perhaps not understood. You did that column for The People, which was great, but it was never going to work in The People. What was what was that all about? I remember that column. It was a great column.
Oh,
dear. I used to read it and think, Paul,
I know. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, you know, it's like it was like sort of like you get to like 5 sort of subjects, and you do 100 words on each, and that's easy. You know, if you write, so you know 900 words, suddenly you've got to have an opinion on something. Yeah. 100 words, you can just sort of jot down an idea. I remember one week Mike Tyson had just gone into prison for the rape, and I wrote this thing about, and this is Frank Bruno's big chance to become world champion. All he's got to do is dress up as a prison, get a prison guard's uniform, go into the prison, take in Mike Tyson's breakfast, whack him over the head with a tray, get someone to count to 10, and he'll be world champion. Yeah. I mean, that's all it was. You know, it wasn't going to be a 4-part documentary. That's all it was. Yeah. And the people said, we've done some research.
A deathless phrase.
We've done some research, and Mike Tyson isn't world champion anymore. So if Frank Bruno did that, he wouldn't become world champion.
No, they didn't really.
And they said, we've spoken to the sports department and they assure us that this would not happen. I'm saying, well, yes, I know, but it's not an exclusive. It's only 100 words.
An exclusive.
You know, but there was no way, there was no talking them out of it.
Yeah, but you enjoyed it while you did it, I take it.
No, they pulled the piece.
Oh, I see.
They wouldn't use it.
No, they didn't. Right.
Because it wasn't true.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is the people saying it's not true.
Yeah. At this stage, of course, and on behalf of the audience, I want to say, why have you got a beard there, Paul?
What beard?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you knew it.
No, I thought I might do a bit of acting work. I'm going to specialise in U-boat captains. EastEnders looking for a U-boat captain. I'm straight in there. These other mugs haven't even started. I'm right ahead of them. I'm in there straight away.
You saw Keith Chegwin on earlier on.
Yeah. He's back there having a bottle of scotch, I should say.
He'd be the first to laugh along with it.
No, he's very good.
Yeah, top man. Obviously, you remember the clips as well we were showing there. But in the 60s, what would have been? What did you grow up with? What would you fancy?
Well, so children's programs. Yeah. Well, I saw. Yeah, there were several things. There was all things like Magpie, where you suddenly see Susan Stranks in a bikini, and at the age of 14, you think this is great. This
was great, though.
This knocks spots off Valerie Singleton. Yeah. Walking through Kenya in a pair of shorts. She's wearing a bikini. This one. Man from Uncle, I liked. Man from Uncle, I liked a lot, and you know, and I remember sort of when it first started, all those kind of things where you're pretending to be the person on the programme, so you're crawling around buildings like this and looking round corners.
I never had you pegged for a big man from Uncle.
No, I loved it at the time. It was great. And Robert Vaughan, David McCallum were excellent. Yeah. And I bought, they had, the first early days of merchandising, and I bought this Man from Uncle invisible pen.
You said research earlier on. Yeah. I didn't believe it when I first heard it. Yeah. A surprise for you, Paul Merton. Would you now look at these monitors? It must be true. Look at this.
Hello, Denny, and hello, Paul. Look, I'm really sorry that I can't be with you tonight on this very special occasion. But as you know, I'm a very busy man who has absolutely no idea who you are. But I understand you were a big Uncle fan and even had one of our invisible pens. Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you, Paul, but there were no invisible pens. The envelope you received actually was empty. You were the only person who wrote in for one. I remember it well. Bob and I took your £2.10 and bought a bottle of scotch. I'm sorry, Paul, but there it is. Well, have a wonderful evening, and see you on a mission sometime.
Top man, David McCallum, recorded in New York earlier today. You saw Mark O'Shea earlier, yeah? The Crocodile Man. Is that you? Are you brave?
I don't know. I once had this incident where I had this burglar. I was living at a place where there was this like, iron staircase leading up to the front door, and there was a main road outside. So I'm crossing the main road, and I see this bloke standing outside the front door, and I'm sort of looking for the traffic, and I cross the road, and he's gone. Now, I know that he's sort of not come down the stairs, so I would have seen him, so I know he's inside the flat. So I go up into this flat, and you think, well, what do you do? And so I sort of pushed the door open, and I said something like, hello? You know, as if he's going to say, oh, sorry, I've just got to borrow some sugar. And so there was nothing, you know, so I sort of edged in, and he was, I mean, it's such a cliche, I couldn't believe he was doing it. I sort of turned around the corner, and the curtains were there, and his feet were sticking out of the bottom of the curtains.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's hardly worthwhile being a burglar if you're going to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Did you arrest him? Did you get him arrested?
No, I'd heard somewhere that if you find a burglar, you know, you shouldn't sort of like try and trap them or organise a drinks evening with them. Those are the two things you shouldn't do. And so I just sort of said, oh, I'm not going to stop you, you know, I'll just go and whatever. Yeah. And he did, and he sort of said something, I'll be back, you know.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Seen too many Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
And I want to wind up with something deep. How do you feel about the press calling you the sexiest man on television? Yeah, you are.
Who cares, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
sure. Ludicrous, you know. It's a ludicrous thing because, you know, before you were on television, women weren't fainting in the street because I was going down to the newsagents. It's just, you know, anybody on television with a bit of makeup on, a pulse, you know.
There's John Paul Merton. Thanks, Paul. Yeah. There you go. The sexiest man on television. I hope you're having enough of a Saturday night, as once again we have the pleasure of saying the pace doesn't stop. It's those 6 syllables, Mr. Bryan Ferry.
So you say you're living just for fun. Isn't it enough? So you say you wait or will come. Isn't it? I could never be the one. You moonlight and the sun. Oh, my moonlight, my moonlight. Oh, my moonlight, my moonlight. Just like night we chained about. And there's a road I've got to take. Thread you got, the thread you got to break. Oh, I'm on a run. Oh, I'm on a run. Oh,
Virtually it, but before we sail into Sunday, I heard a curious thing just the other day. A friend of mine said, why is it you never see any tall, old people? Well, in fact, you do, but like anything rewarding in this life, you just have to know where to look. And with that in mind, I hope you can join me and the gang next week. Good night, everybody.
Danny's back next week with England coach Terry Venables, comedian Joe Brand and singer Tony Bennett. That's next Saturday at 11:55 on BBC1.
Something's cooking.
We're buying stolen goods?
Well...
Do you think we should?
Has Terry Wogan just walked in? Does this do the right thing?
And it's taxing his brain.
What does an oak tree look like?
So, will he crack under pressure?
I can't remember the man's name. I've no idea who it is.
This isn't NYPD Blue.
No, it's Chef. Thursday, 9:30 on BBC1.
Blur Pulp and Take That are among the artists receiving a prestigious music award over on BBC2 in 20 minutes. On BBC1 now, the mobsters of Los Angeles may be regretting their choice of murder target when his friend, a karate expert, vows revenge. The perfect weapon.